exploring career paths and opportunities, enlightening students by helping them develop essential skills, and connecting them to the professional world. We bridge the gap between undergraduates and their future careers. We are UP CAPES. Unparalleled commitment, agility, professionalism, excellence, and service since 1991.
This event wouldn't be possible without our company partners. Career Development Month 2020 is co-presented by UP CAPES and INKOMPASS in partnership with Accenture, Analog Devices, JPMorgan Chase Company, Maxim Integrated, Mondele Philippines, Nestle Philippines, Texas Instruments Philippines Incorporated, and Unilever Philippines.
Wake up, London. Rise and shine, Shanghai. What's up, Mumbai? New York, New York. Get out of bed. Greet the day. It's time to make a difference. Forge ahead with new ideas and work together. You'll dream bigger. After all, you're an artist, an athlete, a tech enthusiast, a role model. Remember, your differences make us stronger, make us smarter, more innovative. It's in our culture at JPMorgan Chase, our DNA. Every career is designed with you in mind, to make an impact, to lead.
Extremely impactful.
Because the chance of a lifetime is all in a day's work. And when the day is done, you refresh, refuel, and get ready for tomorrow. So good night, Rome. Sleep tight, Sydney. Sweet dreams, Tokyo. We'll see you in the morning.
We are the makers and bakers of Mondele International, the world's leader in global snacking. Our future has never been brighter, tastier, healthier, sweeter, crunchier, or bolder.
We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with fresh questions, ideas, and perspectives. We are ready to disrupt.
It's our mission to lead the future of snacking around the world by offering the right snack for the right moment made the right way. We are snacking made right.
This opens up exciting possibilities because if you make it with us, you make it with pride.
You'll work with brands that people fall in love with. They remind us of our childhood, the warmth, the delight, the memories.
We are constantly innovating for the future. As our world and tastes change, so do we.
With us, you make it uniquely yours because we want you, just as you are, leaning in, speaking up, and challenging your limits.
With us, you make it a better world. Being global isn't about being big. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
A place where the world is yours to protect as well as enjoy. A place where days are filled with different voices, different possibilities, different cultures, but driven by the same shared purpose, empowering people to snack right.
With us, you make it happen.
We're hungry to seize every opportunity and stretch towards new challenges, loving what we do, but not taking ourselves too seriously.
With us, you'll have the space to make a difference, to do more, learn more, and grow more.
Make it with pride.
Make it uniquely yours.
Make it a better world.
Make it happen.
Make it with Mondele International. Snacking made right.
Ma, di ako makatulog.
Lika anak, may kwento ko sa'yo. Isang araw, tumigil ang mundo. At nagsitago ang mga tao sa kanilang mga bahay. Ngunit nagsimula ang tulungan at napawi ang pangamba. Nakita nila na mayroong pag-asa. Dahil ang bawat isa ay nagpakita ng malasakit.
Malasakit?
Ang malasakit ay ang lubos na pagpapahalaga sa kapwa na nag-uudyot sa iyo na kumilos sa tumulong. Malasakit para sa kalusugan ng bawat isa. Malasakit para sa kabuhayan ng bawat Pilipino. At malasakit para sa lahat. Pero di dito nagtatapos ang kwento. Sa bawat malasakit na naranasan, naipadama pa siya sa iba. Sa malinis na pangangatawan, sa ligtas na tahanan, at sa sarap ng kainan. Pag tuloy-tuloy ang malasakit, tuloy-tuloy ang pag-asa. Ito ang ating kwento. Kwentong totoo at nagsisimula ito sa'yo.
Kahit ako?
Oo.
Every day, we are changing the world. We are dreamers. And we are doers. We pride ourselves on perfecting the small. Our 30,000 employees design, manufacture, test, and sell tens of thousands of products. Tiny electronic chips that are key ingredients in things you experience every day. Look around you. We are there. From connected cars to intelligent homes. From self-monitoring health devices to automated factories. Our technologies are adding intelligence to every type of electronic system, making them safer, smarter, and more efficient. With our global sales team of engineers, our website with deep technical resources, our broad portfolio of products, and our investments in our own advanced manufacturing, we have a unique approach to helping our customers make their design dreams a reality. And along the way, we remain true to our deeply rooted values of integrity, innovation, and commitment. Wherever our ingenuity shines, new possibilities emerge. Chip by chip, design by design. At TI, we are creating world-changing technologies every day. And we can't wait for tomorrow.
Hello, everyone. I am Lloyd and I will be your host for today. Welcome to Career Development Month 2020, and hello to our YouTube viewers. This is the first time UP Capes is holding this event. For the month of November, we will be having different initiatives to equip engineering students for their future careers. Please stick around because we have so much in store for you today. This week's talks are all about engineering your ideas. Through Career Development Month, we can all prepare for our careers through the practical guides and tools needed to successfully apply for a job. Today, we will be learning about design thinking. But before we start, I'd like for all of us to look back when UP Capes launched its year-long campaign last September. Small but consistent steps are essential to any career development journey. Career Development Month is one such step that can help you gain relevant career skills, ultimately taking you one step closer to your dream career. All right, I'm sure everyone here is excited to hear the talk. Let us now introduce our speaker for today. Mr. J. Samson is the Liquid Studio Executive and Associate Director of Accenture. He spearheads design thinking capability and informative client tours. He also facilitates client innovation workshops up to prototype fulfillment. Mr. Samson acts as a liaison between the studio and the client in fulfillment of innovation workshops, and he provides user experience recommendation, especially with the output of the innovation workshop. Last but not the least, he is a storyteller who enables interactivity and engagement with the client. Let us all welcome our speaker to talk about design thinking.
Hi guys, good afternoon. Let me just Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, good afternoon and thank you for inviting me. I am Jay Samson from Accenture and I lead the Manila Innovation Hub in Accenture Philippines. For the next 30 minutes, in the next 30 minutes, I'll be sharing with you about design thinking, but also I want to give you some background about how we use design thinking in our day-to-day work. I am glad to be part of this event because as an engineering professional myself, I've seen the value of design thinking, especially for those who are thinking of their future career, how you can actually leverage this specific mindset or methodology into your future profession. So let's start. And around the world, leaders from different industry have been trying to find solution and innovate in this ongoing pandemic. And together today more than ever, a lot of the great minds have been trying to cope up in this pandemic or social economic crisis that we are facing right now. And what they've been trying to do is to come up with a solution that will help not just a specific industry, but the mankind. No, and truly, innovation is now recognized as the single most important ingredient in the modern economy, quoting economist. But a lot of organizations have been trying to um, do innovation, but they've been facing a lot of problems like the likes of language barrier. They have, especially this working remote situation, the siloed mindset, the culture itself, because it's something new. Now, a lot of organizations were prepared in doing innovation, but because of pandemic, they have to adapt. One of the other factors that is affecting organization to do collaboration and innovation is even their environment itself. And again, innovation in itself is something that will help an organization to stay afloat in these difficult times. You may be wondering how Accenture have been enabling innovation in our day-to-day work. And we came up with some tools, ideas, and also how we have enabled and empowered our people so that being working from home, we are still enabled to do co-innovation and collaboration with our customer. How do we do it? It's simple. First, we provided tools. These are the digital tools that we uh, provide our employees and also our customer so that we can continue to co-innovate. The other one is we have some rituals. This will help us provide collaboration, creating new culture that will help our team to push for innovation. The other one are the immersions. This is where we actually believe in the mantra of learning through doing, which I'll be sharing with you more in a bit. And lastly is methods or the methodology. This is where we will double click because we'll be talking about design thinking, and there are different methodology that we actually um, empowered our people to use in their day-to-day work. One of which is design thinking. But let's double click. Remember trim, the tools, rituals, immersion, and also methodology. First, tools. So what are the different tools that we provide our employee so that they can continue to do innovation while working from home? Just to give you some background, in before pandemic, we used to do a lot of ideation, brainstorming, co-innovations, and even collaboration in our Liquid Studio office in Uptown BGC. But because of this current pandemic, we are all forced to work from home. So we have to recreate the experience. We have to make sure that our people have the right tools so that they can continue to do innovation with our customer. One of the tools that we use, Microsoft Teams. This is one way for us to have that collaboration, especially like in this case, we're doing face-to-face collaboration. We have created some framework where we are able to do remote design thinking with our customer. We have created a a framework where it allows breakout rooms so that there will be a focus group discussion or a specific topic. We also created like a plenary room so that general topic are being discussed. And then we have provided digital tools. Like what I said earlier, before pandemic, we've been using a lot of post-its, whiteboard, and this time around we've been using digital whiteboard. A good example is Mural. Uh, if you're familiar with Mural, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. The other type of digital whiteboard is Miro. And Accenture, as an organization, we have our own digital whiteboard as well. So this is what I mentioned earlier, the framework that we use in terms of making sure we can do collaboration. As you can see here, we have this auditorium setup where we enabled our people to do focus group discussion. And then some best practice when we're doing that is we make sure we actually equipped not just the facilitators, but the entire workshop team to have the right roles and responsibility, the right tools, and the right setup. A good example, when we are running this kind of session, we don't allow one facilitator facilitating a remote workshop because that won't work. It's an ingredient to disaster. So what we do is we make sure that there are at least two facilitators who will be running it, so that you have your main facilitator to cascade all the necessary activities, and you have a technical facilitator so that he or she would be able to help the individual having problem with the tools and also with the activities itself. The other one that we will talk about would be the rituals. This is one of my favorite because in this working from home scenario, a lot of people are actually having problem in terms of making sure that they have a separation between work and personal life. Because uh, guess what, if you're living in a condo and you know that the space is that small, sometimes your workplace is also your where you sleep, and it's not healthy. So what we did is we actually introduced truly human activities. One of my favorite is show and tell Monday. This is where we, before we start our week, we encourage our team just to start sharing. This actually help us to improve their storytelling skills. The other one is making them curious of what's happening outside. And before start talking about work, we want them to start about what caught their interest within the week or over the weekend, so that they can share that with us. Imagine in just 30 minutes, the number of ideas, the number of uh, topics have been shared to you instead of just browsing your social media, or maybe browsing YouTube or something. So that's one. The other one that we also do to make sure that our people are engaged is when we have this virtual coffee or virtual beer, and we also set some like mixers every Friday so that we can continue to engage. But the other thing that you might be interested, which is the main focus of our discussion today, is the methodology. So you know, back 10 years ago, I used to work in Singapore, where um, I actually practiced my engineering background. I started to work as a systems admin, managing servers and also some websites, and then configuring some routers and creating network. And I elevated my game where I've learned to do solution architecture, where it actually put both business and technology together. But as I actually create my own expertise as a global solution architect, I realized that there's one missing component in doing solution. And when I've got to learn about design thinking, it actually helps me realize that before you do your solution, you have to know first who are you solving for and what is their main agenda or their goal. Then I double click on design thinking. So when we're doing design thinking, those are just the rituals earlier. When we're doing design thinking, there are different phases of it, which we will double click in a bit. While you are creating different ideas, out of the box solutions or crazy ideas, one of the um, one of the things that I like about design thinking is that you are allowed to test your idea, whether it's something that is really solving the problem of your customer, and then you can iterate it based on their feedback. And feedback is something that is super important, that you always need to seek for, not just in doing design thinking, but also in anything that you do. Ask feedback so that you can improve yourself. Once you create prototype, you want to build it as fast as you can. So use agile methodology. That's another methods that I would recommend, especially for you guys as an engineer. When you start working for software, it's either you do it in waterfall or you do it with agile. But a lot of industry and organization right now are trying to create their own agility, where they actually start with agile. So agile and design thinking are actually best methodology that complements each other. But for today, let us double click with design thinking. So what is design thinking? This is actually based on Webster's description that it's a human-centered and creative approach for framing opportunities and problem solving based on the understanding desirable user experience, in addition to its technical feasibility, business viability of the solution. And it comes in 5 different phases, which is discovery, describe, co-create, scale, and sustain. But what is really important is the first three. And before you even start with the first one, it's super important for you to start doing prep work or pre work, like gathering data, doing some interviews, market research, because those are good inputs for you to do discovery. But let us now double click on the design thinking itself, not just a methodology, but as a mindset. So I also want to share with you a book that I stumbled upon a couple of years back while learning more about design thinking. I I was in Power Books and going through some innovation books, and I saw this innovation code by Jeff DeGraff, and it actually helped me to even frame creating a good set of composition of a innovation team. One of the things that I've learned based on my observation is that every time that we form a group. Normally, if you have 20 people, you ask them to count one to four. Well, you have five groups of four. And sometimes, based on your alphabetical names or whatever, you'll have that groupings. But one thing that I've learned is that through innovation code, you can actually get the dominant mindset of people. That is where, whether they are engineers as a mindset, these are the people who are so into systematic approach and things. The other ones are the artists, which are those who are very creative, risk averse. They always think of what's next. The other one are the athlete. These are the goal oriented people who always push the team to actually strive to achieve the goal. And the last one is the sage, which is the one really connected to their core that glue the entire team when you're doing innovation. So when you start forming a team who will do design thinking, make sure you know their dominant mindset. Because if you put all engineers together, I tell you they'll be very quiet and they'll be very up to the um, all what is on the books. They're always following process and process, and then they will stop innovation. So it's best to put the crazy mindset of an artist to be part of an innovation team, so that your design thinking will push through and you will gather a lot of different ideas. One of the favorite person that I idolize and epitomize in terms of design thinking, Steve Jobs. Just some background about him. When Steve Jobs actually became the CEO of his own company the second time around, he opened up Apple to a lot of investors because he believed that customer experience is more important, because he knows technology can actually follow after. And it's true. Um, a lot of the solutions that we have before, especially for the older ones, no, you will agree with me that especially in our country, there are banks or service company who are offering services a few years back before social media. When they are launching a new product, they will actually push it to their customer, and then customer are just there to consume it. But with social media, people are now more vocal and have the power to request on what kind of service do they want. And if they're not pleased with the service, they can just complain or rant in social media. Voila, you have a better service, which is in a way good for us as a consumer, no? Uh, what I like about Sijab when he opened the company for investors, going back to the story, did you know that the mouse that we know now, like this one, uh, it was actually Xerox from Park Lab who actually invented the first mouse. But because they don't know the business value of it, they didn't release it as a product to the market. But Steve Jobs, when he saw it, actually, when he was in Park Labs, he saw a mouse, and then he brought it over to IDEO, one of the famous design company, and then they turned it into the mouse that we know now. So design thinking itself from that story is not starting from scratch. It's actually building on top of an existing solution. And a lot of all the other organizations right now, like Fjord, which is another Accenture company, Luma Institute, Strategizer, and IDEO, all of this are organizations, even IBM, they have their own language of design thinking. And what is common about all of this is empathy. This is the main core of design thinking. And let's start with the design thinking itself. So discover, again, it's learning about the people you're trying to help, the aspirations of this organization or people, so that you can gather all these insights that you need to create a solution for your customer. So like what I said earlier, this is the common to all of the organization that I've shown earlier. And then a lot of companies have been in the tech first mindset, especially for the traditional ones. When you are working with a tech first mindset, it always goes with Gantt chart waterfall implementation. It's always siloed mindset per department. It's a requirements driven prototype, which is the opposite of a human informed mindset. Accenture as an organization took us a while to actually shift from the tech first mindset to be in the human informed mindset. And we are still transitioning, in fact. But right now, because of this transition, our employees are more empowered to do some experimentation. They feel like it's a serious play. A lot of it really is iterative and agile. And that is what is needed, especially now in this current pandemic. And these are the unique reasons why the design thinking mindset is different. Anyone can actually do it, and then it's fun because as you are trying to look for solution or even solving some problem, you are already exploring the possible solution. And what's best about it as well is that you empathize with the people that you are trying to solve their problem for. And then as you ideate and explore solutions, it encourages you to be more collaborative with people because you really have to talk to the people that you're dealing with so that you can come up with the best solution that is fit to their requirement. And then at the end of the day, the design thinking can solve different types of problem. In fact, I always recommend that take it as a mindset because when you're doing some decision making in your own life, design thinking is the best way to actually make decisions with, especially if it's a major thing that you're going through right now. Okay, let's go to the different phases of design thinking. Discover. Again, this is where you will gather data, and I'll be showing you some of the activities that we have here. Um, as I mentioned earlier, empathy is at the heart of the discover phase. This is where you are gathering meaningful insights. But how do you do that? It's through research, through interviews, through shadowing your customer. One of the things that we also practice is you observe the persona or the people you're trying to help. You're like a fly in the wall. You just want to make sure that you gather all possible data that you have and then you synthesize them. Like what I shared, observe is one of the activities that we do in design thinking. And when you're doing some observation, you will get to learn about people's interaction, the way they talk to each other, the way they do some hack when they're having some problem in the process, and also look at the body language of people because that also helps. A couple of years back, I met this lady in Singapore, the author of Mismatch, where it actually opened up my mind and broadened my perspective in terms of design. And inclusive design is one thing that we also practice here in Accenture. When I took the course in IDEO, I get to learn about learning from the extreme. Normally, when we are doing some solution for a specific industry, you always focus on the main or the average or average people or the main users, right? We tend to forget about the extremes, which are the either you have the young generation or the maybe the older generation. But did you know that if you're actually solving for the extreme first, your mainstream will definitely be using the solution itself. So with the use of inclusive design, we've been creating solutions not just based on the age of people, but also people with disability. These are some of the things that we've been doing now in creating solutions that is more inclusive. Just a breeze through of discover, we will now go to describe. As you gather insights, as you collect patterns from the data, from the survey, from the interview, you will now start to synthesize that. If you notice the double diamond approach that is being used by Luma Institute, this is where you will start to do convergent thinking. This is after you gather all of the data from your discovery, you will now start to zoom in a bit and prioritize what is really important. And in Describe, you will now doing synthesis of this data so that it will help you focus on one is the persona, the journey of the people you're trying to help, and then look at the pattern of the data that you gathered and what is making sense. From there, you're able to formulate your design challenge or your problem statement so that you can start doing divergent thinking again, which is the next phase. But a good example of describe or synthesis, and when you start zooming in to a specific person, it's always important to have a focused persona when you're trying to create a solution, because you can personalize the specific ideas or solution that you will provide that specific that generation, maybe a class of or group of people. And in persona, you will create different information about them, like their aspirations, their frustrations, goals. From there, it aligns your mindset on what needs to be um, captured as part of their solution. No? One of the things that I love as well is the customer journey. Through customer journey, you are able to understand their as is or their current state, because through the ups and downs of their experience, especially if you're looking at a like for example service design, looking at the service by itself, you will understand in which part of the service is the persona is actually having some problem. A good example to that is this: imagine if you're looking at a journey of a customer, and you will see that there are tipping point in its journey itself. And from here, you would know which part of the journey can you actually improve. This is where innovation kicks in. So the other one is that coming up with your how might we, or the design challenge as they call it, or the problem statement. This is actually helping you to frame the main challenge that you want to solve, and then it challenges the assumptions that you have at the beginning of your design thinking journey, which is through discovery. When you are crafting out your problem statement, there are different approach that we actually recommend. It should be positive framing. It should be solution agnostic. As much as possible, don't make it too focused, and also do not make it too biased in a solution. Sometimes they tend to narrow it in a way that it's about AI only, and we've seen that happening. It should be more agnostic. It shouldn't be too narrow, and it shouldn't be too broad as well. Again, one of the things that I always share when I'm running this kind of session is that you cannot boil the ocean, because it's true. So if you're solving a problem, make sure there's a focus to it. And that's super important. One of my favorite, in fact, it's my favorite in the process of design thinking. It's the co-create. This is where you will start to iteratively ideate based on the problem statement that you formulated at the describe phase. This is where you will start to look for inspiration within your market or outside your market, or even some crazy idea or out of the box idea that may solve the problem that you were trying to solve. No, in coming up with in this divergent thinking, this is where you're gathering a lot of ideas again. It's super important to don't judge other people's idea. In fact, what you need to do is build on top of other people's idea, because that's design thinking. And then as you create abundance of ideas, you can start to look for pattern as well, and see which one is actually more relevant to the problem statement of your customer. We always call prototype as the currency of innovation, because it's true. In this current situation that we are in right now, the reason why a lot of organizations were able to stay afloat, because they prototype even before they productize a solution. So through prototyping, you're able to at least get feedback easily from the persona or the users that you are, or the users of your product, and then you can iterate it and improve it along the way. And there's a lot of value to it, because it promotes that shared vision of the future, and also it tests the idea quickly. Unlike with waterfall, which is the traditional way of creating products or services, it takes a while before you can get that feedback. And I've learned that myself the hard way when I was working in Singapore as a global solution architect. Because when we actually start doing the solution, I will realize that a year after what we started is not something that is really important to our customer. Then you have to redo, and then it's just a waste of time. There are 10 principles that we always share when we're running prototype. One thing is embrace beginner's mindset. The other is don't fall in love with your first idea, because guess what? After you get feedback, you will iterate it. It's also important to track the different changes or iteration that you're getting from your users, because through that, that's how you can improve the idea itself. Be fluid in terms of creating a solution itself. Like us in the Liquid Studio, why we were called the Liquid Studio because we are fluid in terms of scale and then in terms of the different um, technology that we use for our customer. And then the other one is the Shrek model. This is where don't be scared. When you first saw Shrek, you get scared. But when you get to know about the background of Shrek, you fell in love with Shrek. Same thing with your idea. Don't be scared if it's uncomfortable because through that you will see the potential of innovation. And there are different types of doing prototype. I'll breeze through it because I think I only have like 6 minutes. There are different types of prototyping ideas. No, one is storyboarding, just like storyboarding, paper prototyping, body storming, and then scale models, which I'll be sharing with you in the coming slides. Storyboarding. This is a good example where, especially for coming up with the commercials or maybe the movies, you are familiar with this. You have the starting point where you're creating the problem, you have the climax, and then you have the solution there until it's a happy ending. That's how a storyboarding looks like. And a lot of our creatives have been doing this perfectly when they will create the storyboard when we are coming up with a wireframe. So you understand why such buttons are here and all that. So this is a good example to that, where you will be writing the scenario. The other one is paper prototype. I always love this, especially if you are coders or if you are a programmer. You wouldn't want to start coding if your users are not yet agreeable to how the wireframe will look like, how the website or even the mobile app will flow in terms of the features and functionality. And each time we do this, a lot of our customers love it because guess what? It saves you a lot of resources or people who will code it before you can actually test. With this, you can start drawing it, and then the way you tell the story, they will understand how the flow of the app actually looks like, or even a website. And then as body storming, it's always fun, especially if you're doing it face to face, when the members of the group will start to act the solution itself, like they are furniture or something. And this is super fun. And it also shows the creativity of the participants. The other one is scaling. Especially for the architects, or other creatives, they actually love it. But for us, we use Lego in creating this kind of prototype. This is where you will start building your idea, and it gives you that four-dimensional way of looking at it. Unlike with paper, it's 2D. But with the scale model, you're able to rotate it and gives you that kind of sense on whether the prototype or the idea that you have really fit the requirement of your customer. And one thing that I remember when I took the Lego Serious Play course in Denmark is that with through 4D, which is using the Lego itself, it allows you to have that flow and the imagination itself, like taking one part of it and changing it with another Lego gives you another explanation of your idea itself. And in fact, in our practice in Accenture is that we've been introducing different methods and ways of doing prototyping, especially in this pandemic. You just have to be creative so that your users, the one who's actually on the other side of the camera, would appreciate the solution or the idea that you came up with, and then it can relate to the problem that you actually started at the beginning of your design thinking journey. And then, if you remember the five phases of design thinking, we talk about discover briefly, where you are gathering data and meaningful insights with the use of observation, interview, and survey. And then that's the divergent thinking. And then you did a convergent thinking or convergence through describe. This is where you synthesize the data that you gathered. You look for patterns. You look for what is the main focus, or you prioritize the data that you gathered until you were able to know the persona, their journey, and then formulate your design challenge or the problem statement. And then you actually started with divergent thinking again, when you start co-creating with your users, where you will generate abundance of idea in the co-create phase. And then you started to do a convergent again as you start doing your prototype and scale those prototype. And the last two will be scaling and sustain, When you finish your prototype, the very next thing that you need to do, go to the users or the persona that you are um, creating the solution for, and then ask them for feedback. Ask them to play around with it. Sometimes we even ask them destroy it, so that we would know how good the solution that we build, especially if it's an app or if it's a software. We actually ask the users to even hack it if they can, because that's how you can test the the goodness of the product or the prototype that you created. And then when it's good, it's all aligned to the goal of your customer. Then you start to scale to sustain it, where you will productize it and then implement it in a bigger scale. And with that, again, I would like to thank everyone for inviting me to in this event. And it's I hope you learned something with design thinking and how we do design thinking in Accenture. And some of the tips that I always give for beginners in terms of design thinking is that first, there's a lot of available resources online. You can either use YouTube, then look for IDEO. They have a lot of um, free videos there about design thinking. In terms of books, I always love the books created or written by the guys from IDEO. One is the Change by Design by Tim Brown, who is the CEO of IDEO. The other one is Art of Innovation by Tom Kelly. And then the book that I showed earlier, which is the Innovation Code by Jeff DeGraff, is another good book that can, if you are interested with design thinking, those are some three good books that you can actually start learning design thinking itself. Online, you can also look for AJ and Smart. They're very good as well in their design sprint, something that they adapted from Google, and then IDEO, like what I shared earlier. And that's it. Thank you, and more than happy to answer some questions.
So thank you, Mr. Samson, for that wonderful presentation. I think what this talk highlights is the importance of design thinking and crafting engineering solutions, because we learn all these concepts, this complex set of ideas in our classes. But then at the end of the day, the big question is, how do we apply these ideas into crafting solutions or addressing the wants and the needs of the people in our community or the intended users of our products. And I think design thinking is one way we can bridge those two things. So, and also I think design thinking from this talk also highlights the importance of collaborating with people from different sectors, so that we'll be able to create solutions that are innovative and universal. Okay, so how's everyone after our design thinking talk? Please stick around because we still have our Q&A session after this. And again, this event wouldn't be possible without our company partners. Career Development Month 2020 is co-presented by UP CAPES and INKOMPASS in partnership with Accenture, Analog Devices, JPMorgan Chase Company, Maxim Integrated, Mondele Philippines, Nestle Philippines, Texas Instruments Philippines Incorporated, and Unilever Philippines. All right, we'll now be having our Q&A session. So for our first question here is for Mr. Samson. What are the pros and cons? Right here. How do you perform the prototype stage without wasting resources in perfecting the solution?
Don't always One of the things that I always share to the design thinkers when we're doing this kind of session is, do not aim for perfection, because nobody's perfect. You cannot always create perfect solution. What's important is you start doing it and then collect feedback, and don't think about wasted resources, because the fact that you are experimenting, you're already looking at the possibility or the art of the possible. Just to give you an example, if, well, you're too young to this this generation may not be able to relate, but there is this one specific movie, they call it The Abyss by Cameron McIntosh. He's the I don't know, Cameron. Yeah, he's the director of what do you call this? Titanic, and also so when he created it was I think early 1980s or late 70s. I wasn't even born yet. But one thing that I've learned about that specific movie because it was done under the water or under the sea, no, it's they explored the depth of the ocean, and because you cannot really do that in the earlier days, they did experimentation. What they created is a prototype using a water tank in the U.S. And then as they start um, creating the different effects in the water tank itself, they started to pour water into it, and then they didn't think about wasting effort there, but they actually took the challenge of creating and experimenting that specific tank so that they can create how they envision the experience under the sea. And that was actually a very good example where he was even saying that no matter where you are in life right now, whatever you do, if you don't start now, your water will be above you if you don't start experimenting. So don't always think of the wasted effort, because always in those experimentation, you will fail, definitely, but that's the beauty of it. Fail fast mindset, where you will learn along the way as you fail through those experimentations. So I hope I answer your question.
Thank you for that answer. And we have one question from one of our viewers here. What are the pros and cons of waterfall versus design thinking?
So actually, it should be a comparison between waterfall and agile, because design thinking is at the beginning of the before you implement. So if you were to a good example, if you are creating a custom application, the likes of, let's say, your Spotify, your Instagram, your Facebook, all this, these are iterative. These are customized applications where, if you notice, if you are an Apple user or maybe Android, there will always be a pop-up of updates, and they actually did this through Agile. However, when you are doing packaged solutions, especially to you guys when you finish your degree, you start working for a company, you might be working for an organization who will be using platforms like Oracle, SAP, Microsoft. Sometimes they have their own packaged solution. And when this packaged solution are being implemented, always have to go through waterfall approach, because waterfall, you already have a fixed scope, and then you just have to implement it based on the configuration. And like with the customized application, because the features and the functionalities are actually changing, and you are introducing change because you're collecting feedback, you implement it through agile. It's faster because every 2 weeks, which is end of sprint, you're able to implement or put up a release of those updates, and then your application will run. In terms of the pros and cons, right? If you are again comparing the implementation and the types of projects or product you're trying to implement for an organization, if it's package solution where you already have fixed target, fixed configuration, go with waterfall, because that's the best way of doing it. You just have to configure it until the end of that. But if it's going to be customer, your the features and functionality actually change and varies, where you're getting feedback, you go with the agile. Those are the difference of the two. But before you start doing those things, you go with the design thinking, where you will interview the users of those package solution, what features you want, what are the roadmap of this specific feature that you're looking for. Same goes with your customized application. Before you start building that, use design thinking. You gather data about what they want, and then you build it iteratively. So that's the difference between the two, waterfall and agile methodology, and then design thinking at the beginning of it.
So thank you for explaining the difference between those two. For our next question, can you please tell us more about the most effective design thinking gimmick that you have experienced in your work?
One of the things that I always love or my favorite experience in design thinking is when we created this chatbot for the marginalized youth here in the Philippines. It was created 3 years ago. In fact, if you grab your phone and then open your messenger and then look for Tessa, and I'll show it to you here. Tessa is actually a chatbot that we created. At the beginning of it, our people interviewed marginalized youth in I think it's in Malabon or Marikina. And then we started asking them, these are almost the same generation as you guys, and we asked them, how would you want to be interacting with the NGOs that are helping you to look for a job, give you some training within your community? And what we've learned is that they'd rather talk to a virtual assistant than talking to a live agent. In the end, we double click on that aspiration, and we've learned that in the Philippines, we have Facebook Zero. So we anchored that specific chatbot, which is Tessa, uh, and put it into Facebook because here in the Philippines, we can access Messenger with no data required. And now Tessa is actually helping a lot of youth in the Philippines to look for a job. And then the good thing about it as well, because it respect the privacy of people before you even start talking to her. It will ask you to go through the data privacy. And to you guys, to our listeners, if you will be building something that will use data from individual, make sure you have the CPDs or data privacy protection for your users, just like what Tessa did. And why I love it, because first, we use technology for the betterment of the marginalized female in the Philippines. And then on top of that is that the technology that we use is something that is um, now being replicated in different parts of the globe because they've seen the value of it. And that only took us a couple of weeks to do the interviews and the design thinking itself, and it took us 6 months to build the prototype, and now it's a live application.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. For our next question, how would you apply design thinking to an already existing traditional engineering framework?
So design thinking can be applied in all aspects of life, no? Like what I said earlier, in my previous experience, where we've been doing things traditionally. You do Lean Six Sigma to streamline processes. But one thing is that one thing missing there is that you're too focused with the process that you eliminate the human side of it. But when you start adding design thinking as part of your in doing solution, it introduced the human factor, where before you even do streamlining, you look at how will impact the users and also the people involved in that specific process. So design thinking is a complement to all the other processes that we have, be it traditional or new. It just added that human factor or the human informed side of it, so that whatever you build, it should be something that your users or the people involved in the process will um, will love to use whatever you'll be building. Because you know what, like what I said earlier, if you are just building based on technology, it will only take a couple of maybe months or years when people will shy away from it because you didn't take the side of the users. So add design thinking in everything that you do, be it traditional or new, because that's where you can test whether what you created as a solution is something that your users will subscribe to.
All right, so thank you for answering that. So, in connection to that question, you mentioned that it's important to have a human informed mindset. How do you suggest we start developing this mindset?
Like what I said, no, when I started this, I was introduced by one of our colleague in Thailand. They gave me a 30-minute talk about it. And as a solution architect myself, I know that when I'm building solution for my customer, I've been doing some of the activities in design thinking. I gather requirements. I ask for their what features and functionality, what technology do they have. But one thing missing there is that I don't have empathy when I'm asking that. It's always like you have list of questions, they give you answers, and that's it. And because of that introduction in Bangkok, it's just a 30 minutes, I fell in love with the mindset that I started to get curious about it. What I did is that I experimented design thinking myself. When I started to adapt some of the thinking, like for example, the divergent thinking. Now, when I'm doing or involved in a specific opportunity, I took divergent thinking at the beginning, like, okay, let's start mapping it. Who are the people involved? What are the processes that they actually go through? What are the tools? What are the different types of approval that they have? And through that, people can see the way you structure your thought process, and they actually appreciate that because you yourself know that you are going through this series of activities, and then it leads you to a more structured solutioning. So for you to adapt that is one, you can actually learn through the different resources that I mentioned earlier. But learning through doing is even more important. So once you learn something, apply it. An example, when I took that course in IDEO, I've learned the theory for, I think, 2 hours of theoretical um, exercises. And then I went out because one of the topic that I have is to improve the commuting experience of PWD. You know what I did after that lesson? I went to one of the Jeep terminal in Pampanga because I'm from Pampanga. All I did is I sat in one of the benches there, observe the environment. Remember, in the design thinking itself, it's through observation you will see where the potential innovation. So I started applying the theory that I've learned through that course, and then I started taking notes. And because of that, I managed to inculcate that kind of mindset in myself, and that helps me to improve it. And I always stay curious, even up today. I always seek for what's new, what are the latest methodology being used outside of my organization. I always attend conferences. Very recently, over the weekend, I attended UX Page 2020, and I've learned certain things as well from the speakers. And that's one of the key things that I want to recommend to you guys. Like, first, learning through doing, and then don't stop learning, stay curious. Through that, you can imbibe those kind of mindset.
So, thank you for those inspiring words. Now, for our last question, what is the biggest hindrance to fully implementing design thinking into the workspace or into project development?
Again, it's culture. A lot of this starts with the culture in a specific working environment. If the leadership are not subscribed to it, no matter how hard you push for it, it won't fly. That's why when you are introducing something new, it's best to start small. Let's say if you are in a huge organization, like in our case, we're like 500,000 globally. We started in our small team where we show them that we have the design thinking mindset, and they've seen it when we start showing them different types of way of thought process in looking at opportunity, creating solutions for our customer, and then eventually it grew organically when people notice how different our team have been doing our work, how we create our solutions, and then it just expanded. And what's important when you're doing this, when you're trying to drive this kind of mindset, make sure that it's organic. But what's important as well is that there should be some empowerment from the leadership so that it will happen in an organization. Those are just I think that's one of the key hindrance for an organization to adapt to this design thinking mindset when they're not subscribed to that new culture, because it's an open kind of thinking, and it's empowerment, and you are allowing your people to experiment, and you allow them also, or you empower them also to fail. And be in the Philippines specifically, we know that when you hear the word failure, that already means that you're weak, but it's not. Failure actually helps you to learn based on what you've gathered through that activity that you have. So it will take a while for organization to start adapting that mindset, but I think in this current pandemic, a lot of organizations have been changing their mindset and their culture as well.
Thank you for answering our questions. And once again, thank you so much, Mr. Samson, for the insightful session about design thinking. All right, so a big thank you again to our speaker for today's talk. We greatly appreciate your time to talk about design thinking. We look forward to applying what you just taught us in our own career journey. As a token of gratitude, we hereby present our Certificate of Appreciation. So, UP Capes presents this Certificate of Appreciation to Mr. Samson for imparting his valuable insights and inspirations as our guest speaker for the Design Thinking Talk of the Career Development Month given this 16th day of November 2020. Again, thank you to our speaker for imparting your knowledge on design thinking.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Yes, sir. Stay safe also. All right, that officially concludes our session today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This event wouldn't be possible without our company partners. Career Development Month 2020 is co-presented by UP Capes and Encompass in partnership with Accenture, Analog Devices, JPMorgan Chase Company, Maxim Integrated, Mondele Philippines, Nestle Philippines, Texas Instruments Philippines Incorporated, and Unilever Philippines. A big thank you to everyone for attending Career Development Month 2020. We hope to see you in the next UP Capes events. And once again, I'm Lloyd and have a great day. Bye, everyone.